everybody. I'm Shaffer-Harris, and this is We the People, where we reclaim the words that started it all and explore the people and politics shaping tomorrow. Let's talk about what's really going on in our world and why it matters. Today, we're talking about identity, how we discover who we are, how the world responds to it, and what it means to grow into yourself as a young person navigating society. Please welcome my very special guest and the host of the Let's Talk Matcha Podcast, Sophia Seiden.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be one of Sarah's first guests on her podcast, and yes, we do have matcha.
Best matcha I've ever tasted, by the way.
So good, so good. Is this like your first time trying like real matcha?
Like real matcha, yeah.
Okay, yes, and she loves it, so
you guys, it's so much better than normal matcha.
Yeah,
oh
than the Starbucks matcha.
It's so good.
Yeah, but anyways, I have my own podcast, Let's Talk Matcha, where I dive into the bittersweet moments of the teenage experience, just like matcha. And yeah, pretty much through it, I like to amplify teen voices and the different perspectives of them. So thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So segment 1 is all about what is identity and how do we define identity. So identity comes in many different forms: personal identity, social identity, and how these two don't always line up, because personal identity is how you see yourself, whereas social identity is how others see and treat you. And as we know from our society, those two definitions definitely don't line up and can have really negative impacts on ourselves and others.
Yeah. I would say I definitely value curiosity and growth. I think growing up, I was in such a competitive environment in my school where everyone was like super naturally smart. And I'm not naturally smart. Like, yeah, I may get pretty good grades, but it's because I work really, really hard. And I've always been the one to ask a bunch of questions in class, to always advocate for myself, to just be very proactive in whatever I do, and to always put my full 100% effort into everything I do. So growing up, it was really hard for me to see people get good grades or just do things effortlessly. So, and then coming into high school, it was just like, wow, like, I kind of felt those feelings again. It's like, I really do have to work hard for everything that I do. Like, I'm not going to be handled everything. I'm going to have to be resourceful. I'm going to have to work for everything I do, you know? And it was just hard to not compare myself to other people, so.
Yeah. Well, for my personal identity, I definitely value hard work, passion, and speaking out.
Right.
I think I also grew up in a family that really pushed me to ask questions, to be curious, like you said.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I got older and through my experiences, I learned that speaking out is the best way to, you know, make a change with the passion that you have. And so that's my personal identity. And I think how that fits with social identity is that people will sometimes view me as being, and this connects to my previous episode, like an ultra feminist, which some people see in a negative like aspect. So it kind of shows how social identity versus personal identity definitely doesn't always fit together, because you can have personal values, personal identity, and then others will see and interpret that different and then treat you differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think, especially in high school and with how our society works with social media especially, it's so hard to not let the thoughts of others and the opinions of others cloud your view of yourself.
Absolutely.
Especially for me, I think in middle school, I don't know if it was like jealousy or there wasn't, I think it was not a lot of people gave credit where it was due, and it just felt like I was constantly putting in so much effort to other people, but I never like got that back.
Yeah.
And I think it's because like I view myself as a very like positive person, but maybe like other people don't necessarily view me in that way. So it's just hard to like separate people's opinions and make sure that you stay grounded to your own morals, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, it takes a certain kind of person, and it takes a lot of trust in yourself to be able to ignore what people say about you, and to be able to really trust yourself and stay true to yourself instead of letting other people's opinions exactly cloud, you know, how you feel, or getting inside your head and thinking, oh, what do these people think of me? Do they think of me in a positive way or a negative way? And I think that's really, it's difficult with your identity, especially in middle school, high school, college, because those are the times when our identities are developing the most, because we're so young and we're going through so many changes that our identities are just constantly changing. And it makes it really hard when we're in an environment that's also just constantly like pressuring us and sometimes kind of negative and, putting pressure on us to explain who we are right then when we don't know, we're changing.
Exactly. Yeah, and I definitely think as kids, our brains are very, I also say our brains are like sponges, so we kind of just absorb everything we take in. But there's also the side to that where we're so easily influenced by what other people say, what other people do. And I think especially in high school, and I definitely think you can relate with starting your own podcast. When I started the podcast, I was like so scared.
Oh, so scared.
Yeah, to like even face myself at school, because I was like, oh no, like what are people going to say?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Are they going to hate? Are they going to judge?
Yeah.
But now having my podcast for almost a year, I definitely am so happy that I didn't let any of those negative thoughts get into my head, because I would never be where I am right now. And I think that just goes to show, like, if you are doing something that you genuinely are passionate about, like if you're speaking up about something you love, about something you care about something that you think could make a difference in this world, don't be afraid to say it.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely don't be afraid to say it, because if people hate, they're just bored. They have too much time on their hands, and like, that's on them, and not on you, and you're just doing what you love, so keep doing what you're doing.
I honestly, view you as such an inspiration.
Oh, I know, thank you so much.
Because, no, again, when I started my podcast, I was so afraid, going to school, what are people going to say about it? Especially because I just joined Instagram as well. It was really new to me.
Yeah.
It was really scary, I knew that not everybody would agree with what I was saying.
Definitely.
And I knew that a lot of my views were controversial and that I was discussing really big topics that some people would say, oh, kids shouldn't discuss these topics, or, oh, I don't agree with what she's saying. And so, like you were saying, I was really worried about how others would perceive me.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to remember that it's not about how others perceive you. It's about what you're doing. And if others don't agree with you, that's okay. But it's about the people that really care about what you're doing, that are the people that you most want your audience to be.
Exactly. And you do not need that external validation. Like, I know I was telling you this about before, but I would much rather have a bunch of viewers who perceive me for being me, who value me, for being authentic and genuine, for being myself, And I think that is worth more than any amount of negative views or how people perceive me. I'd much rather have positive people that I'm surrounding myself with,
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I just think that all of that really connects to, the personal identity versus the social identity, because again, these podcasts, these are our personal identities, these opinions, these values, and how other people perceive us, that is our social identity.
Right.
And people will treat us differently based on how they perceive our values and what we are doing. Right. And it's important to differentiate between those two, because your personal identity is not your social identity and vice versa. And when you get in your head and you believe the things that other people say about you, it can really bring you down.
Definitely.
And you really need to remember you are who you are.
Do you think, I don't know if this is really personal, but do you think you've dealt with those negative thoughts before with other people's opinions? Has that kind of taken a toll on you?
Yeah, no, it's definitely taken a toll. There'll be the initial moment where I will be angry and I will be sad and embarrassed, and I'll say, why did I start this podcast, or why am I expressing these thoughts? Maybe I shouldn't. And I'll get inside my head, but then I have to step back and remember, this is just one person. I don't know what they're thinking, if they intended it this way.
Right.
And I reminded myself that if I want to go into the line of work that I want to go into, or if I want to continue this, I have to be okay with opposing opinions. And I also remind myself that it's good to have opposing opinions. builds character and it builds knowledge.
Definitely. And putting it into perspective helps so much. Like,
Oh, yeah.
just think in 10 years from now, like, you're not going to be thinking about what that one
no.
high schooler said.
No, you know, I already forgot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what you feel yesterday, you felt yesterday. What you feel today, you feel today. So, like, every day is a new day, you know?
Exactly.
But, yeah, it's definitely hard to not let other people's opinions get in the way of what you love. But I think especially for podcasts, like, what people have to realize is that we're putting the content out there as podcasters, and if they want to watch it, then they can watch it.
Exactly.
If they don't want to watch it, then they don't have to say anything. They don't have to hate. Like, they can just let it be. Like, I don't get why some people are so fixated on having a comment about anything and everything. Like, honestly, like, again, that just shows that they're just bored and they have nothing else better to do than just, like, hate on people unnecessarily. Like, that's just, I don't know, that's just how high school is. But that's always going to happen. That's inevitable.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
So segment 2 is about being young and redefining identity constantly, which we did talk about in the last segment.
Yeah. There's definitely this rigidity to life where it's like you have to be one thing or another.
Yeah.
And like even I find myself in this like rabbit hole of like what I want to do in my future. Like do I have to like choose like what college do I want to go to, what major do I want to major in, and all things of that sort. But it's just so important to like take a step back, take a slow moment and just breathe and realize like we're just teenagers. Like we do not have to know who we want to be in our life. Like that's so much pressure, and I think especially nowadays with social media and again these social identity aspects where we're putting this pressure on ourselves to figure out who we want to be. And it's good. It's like, don't get me wrong, it's really good to have your future planned out, but sometimes it just gets to a point where you start to lose yourself amidst that.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely felt myself slowly losing what makes me me because I'm so focused on the future. I actually
you're not living like in the moment.
Exactly, in the moment. I actually had a podcast episode on this with one of my friends who graduated from St. Mary's last year. He's at UCLA now. And we just talked about how it's so easy to fall into the trap of constantly future tripping. But again, just taking those slow breather moments and realizing like we're just in high school and like learning how to live in the present. So I think that's so important.
Oh, absolutely. And there's such a pressure to put labels on everything and define yourself so strongly.
Right.
And I think it's important to remember that, again, we are just teenagers. We're going through crazy things in our lives, and we are changing so much that if we feel really strongly about one identity 1 week, you know, that might change week to week, month to month, or year to year, you know. It changes so much. And, you know, for example, I am Jewish, but I did not grow up in a family that actively, you know, went to synagogue. And so I am always, like, caught in the middle of feeling like I'm not Jewish enough, you know?
Yeah.
I feel it's hard. It's hard, especially going to a Catholic school as well. Yeah. You know, I feel like I really identify myself as Jewish, and I am a spiritual and religious person, and I try my hardest, given the circumstances, to abide by this religion that's so, like, ingrained in, like, me and my ancestors.
Right.
But then again, not growing up in that kind of, like, household and family, it makes me feel like, oh, I'm not enough, you know?
Yeah.
So I think whatever identity you have, there's always that feeling like, I'm not enough or I'm too much, you know, whether it's religion or sexuality or just values, anything. It's really easy to compare yourself to others and compare yourself to people online or things that you hear and really think that you aren't enough or you are too much and feel really restricted and feel like you need to fit into that box that society, you know, makes every identity out to be.
Yeah, I like that point that you brought up about feeling like you're not enough, and I definitely think that's so prevalent within our school community. Like, and also just like society in general. Like with social media, you see all these people posting their accomplishments and their successes and everything, like these big and grand-esque things, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to not compare yourself to these people because, and I feel this all the time, like, especially with having a podcast, I see all these other amazing people who are doing so much, and it's like,
oh yeah,
maybe I'm not doing enough, or am I not going to get into college because I'm not like performing well enough? And like even in our school environment, you see so many people taking a lot of APs and doing a lot of extracurriculars and being on all of the varsity sports teams and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's so important to realize that you being you is already enough, and you don't have to change the way you are for other people. Because I think,
Exactly.
honestly, it's worse to try to be someone you're not.
I agree so much. I agree
right.
so much.
It's so much worse to try to be someone you're not, because people can see that. And it goes both ways. People can see when you're being someone you're not, but then also people can see when you're being your authentic self, which I think is so important in a school environment. So also learning to love yourself and loving what you do is so important. I think definitely with sophomore year, I talk about this all the time because I think it's so important, and definitely a lot of other people are going through like the sophomore slump or whatever. Yeah, in high school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, high school is hard, guys. Like, don't get me wrong. I know some people say it's easy, but it can be hard for some people. And that's the one thing. Like, it can be hard for some people, but it can be easy to other people. Everybody's good at what they're good at. Everybody has their own passions, their own talents, their own goals.
I mean, that's what makes us human. We're all different.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important to love who you are and what you bring to the table because, again, everybody has their own unique interests that make them them, you know? So going into high school, going into the environment where it's so independent, like I would say our school is structured pretty independently.
Absolutely,
like we have our own independent study time, we have A-block times, and it's like there will be days where I find myself not even with my group of friends because I'm in a classroom with a teacher, or I'm at a student leadership meeting, or I'm doing something for, I don't know, varsity volleyball, you know? So it's so hard to stay track of not only what you're doing, but also who you are as a person and what you want to bring into your life, you know?
You know, sometimes when you're doing so much, it's really easy to lose track of, you know, your goal.
Yeah.
And for instance, throughout the last year, for me, my goal has just been to really rebuild myself and to find myself as a person, to redefine my own identity.
Yeah.
And with everything that I've been setting up and doing, sometimes I can get overwhelmed and forget really the goal of it all.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you just got to bring it back to basics.
Yeah,
and,
I love that.
You know, remember, what am I doing? I am trying to better myself, and I am trying to find myself. You know, I'm doing all of these things for myself, not for other people, but for myself.
Yeah, I like that point that you brought up. Definitely when you do a bunch of little things, it's hard to see the overall picture. But again, when you put everything into perspective, when you think about the goal that you want to do, when you're intentful, when you have those good motivations, that's honestly when people thrive because you're doing something with purpose and intent.
Yeah. So for segment 3, I really want to talk about when identity becomes political. And I know that a lot of people will say, you know, identity isn't political because society really decides which identities are normal, acceptable, and controversial.
Yeah.
And I think that saying that identity isn't political is a privilege because it's showing that the identities that you are reflecting are the ones that society deems normal or acceptable.
Yeah.
And especially in our society right now, where there are so many controversial and big political topics going on, a lot of people and a lot of people's identities are being targeted. And I think especially as teenagers who are going through such, you know, big identity changes in our lives right now, seeing all of these big, really negative things happening to people and happening to their identities, it really makes you think, like, is this an identity I want to take on? You know, it makes you think about the controversy behind that identity, and it really, sometimes it can bring you down. And again, you really have to think about, like, who am I and who am I in this society?
Yeah. I had a good point about that. Another thing about growing up is that not only are we growing up and changing, the world is also changing as we are. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I had this, like, scripture nature sit. It was like you go to this really cool, like, nature scenic area, and you just sit and you reflect. And I don't know, this is kind of off topic, but not really. And I went to this place where I used to always go as a kid with my old class. And I guess this is kind of more of, like, the physical aspect, not more so, like, society. But that moment when I went back to that place after, 4 years, I realized I was going up the hill to look at, like, the overview of the water and stuff. And I was like, wait, this looks different from what I remember. And that just gave me that weird, crazy realization that not only was I growing up and changing, the path would literally physically changed. And I was like, wait, that's
the world
so weird.
is literally changing.
Physically and socially changing even as we are, which is so crazy to think about. So.
Exactly. So, like you were saying, like, identities today might be deemed unacceptable, but in a few years, those same identities might be said to be normal or vice versa. And so that's why it's so, so important to hold on to your identity as a person and to not let all of these social and political restrictions define you.
Definitely.
Because, again, our world changes, and if you feel like people are against you, they might not always be. And even if they are, if you are being true to yourself, that is the most important thing. Because loving yourself, you know, you are the person that is going to love yourself the best. And that reflects on everybody, how much you love yourself.
Yeah, I'm very into, like, economics and, like, looking at the trends of our economies and the interests of people. And I guess this is, like, an analogy to what you were saying about the world is ever so changing. I like to, like, just thinking about this example right now. Like, for example, people liked skinny jeans 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But now everyone, like, does not like them. So it just goes to show that, again, the world's changing as we are. There's going to be new patterns, new trends, things that people don't like, things that people do like, and it's just constantly changing, you know?
Yeah.
So, way to put that idea into perspective. Like, there's things that people are going to like, there's things that people aren't going to like, but just what matters is what you like and how you're able to stay grounded and stay tied to your morals. So.
Absolutely. For our last segment, I really want to talk about finding yourself and some stories and the tools we used in finding ourselves. And my prime example is that when I was younger, I used to let people walk over me a lot.
Me too.
Yeah. And I had all of these opinions, and I had a lot of thoughts, and I was a very emotive, very sensitive person. So I would let people walk all over me, and I wouldn't speak up because I was afraid of how they would think about me and how they would react. And throughout my life and throughout the last few years, I've really learned that, to me, my own ability to speak out and my ability to stand up for myself matters most, because I want to be somebody that is going to hold their ground and that is going to speak up when things are wrong, whether it's on a small scale, whether it's on a large scale, whatever it is, I want to be able to speak out. So I almost began overcorrecting. I would speak out too much, and I would say too many things, you know? And then it was all about finding that balance between letting people walk all over you and being rude, almost, in a way. So, again, growing up, there were definitely times when I would be really reserved and to myself, and people could say really mean things to me, and I would just let them. And then there would be times that I would be really rude, almost kind of mean. And, you know, those two different things, they don't define me. The thing that defines me is who I am now and today. And I think that's a person who is going to speak out, whether I know the person or not. I'm going to speak up for what I believe in, and I'm going to speak up for myself. And honestly, I think that's really been my journey to discovering who I am as a person and discovering that I'm an opinionated person, I'm a political person, and I'm a person who really just wants to make a difference in this world.
Definitely. Okay, first, I have 2 points about that. First off, the whole idea about finding that balance, that is so critical.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's definitely so important to find that balance, to find that good middle ground of doing it too much versus not doing it enough, you know? And I definitely relate to your point about those past experiences not defining who you are. Because for me, I definitely found myself last fall of sophomore year completely...
Same.
Yeah, completely losing myself. And thinking about it now, I don't want to think of it as a weakness. I want to think of it as those experiences were the stepping stone to me becoming who I am today. And it is so important to embrace those hardships, to embrace those failures. Like, it is so, so important to embrace your failures, because every successful person has gone through more failures and successes in their life. And that is something I had to come to terms with, being a perfectionist, which is something I used to identify myself with, but I think I'm actively trying to improve that about myself. I don't want to tie myself to my accomplishments. I don't want to tie myself to my failures. I just want to be me. You know? And it doesn't matter what I accomplish in life or what I fail at in life. It just matters who I am and the way I show up for people. I think it's so important, and something that I've always valued is always being someone that someone can lean on. Always being someone who shows up for someone when even I can't show up for myself.
Absolutely. I agree so much. Yeah. I think last year, middle of freshman year, I also really lost myself. Honestly, kind of a canon event.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate to the freshman year losing yourself kind of thing, because we go through such a big change.
Yeah.
And I believe that I really lost myself, and I went through a period in my life where it seemed like almost everything was falling apart.
Yeah.
And looking back on it now, yes, it was horrible, and yes, it led to some really negative things about me, but I also overcame it, and because of those things, I was able to rebuild myself into a stronger, more confident person, somebody that's more me, you know?
Definitely.
And like you were saying, it's really important to define yourself as who you are today rather than who you were in the past, because past you is not
who you are
right now. Same as future you is not who you are right now.
I love how you are able to bring that up. And I think it's so important in today's day and age to express your vulnerabilities, to talk about things like this. Because oftentimes, like, if I were to tell someone at school, like, I'm so tired, I'm losing myself, every day it's a struggle to go to school, they would probably think it's cringe.
Yeah.
And they would probably be like, you're over dramatic. But it happens to everyone, and I think it's often worse for people when they try to suppress those feelings.
Absolutely.
But for me, like, I am a super expressive person.
Me too.
Like, I need to voice out what I feel. I need to cry when I need to cry. Like, I genuinely just need to feel my feelings. And it is okay to feel your feelings.
Absolutely.
Like, I know in AP World, we always talk about that. In AP World, guys, we talk about that all the time. Like,
AP World.
Yeah. It is okay to feel your feelings. If you got a bad grade on a test, it's okay to express yourself and cry. It's okay to scream into your pillow at home. I don't know, whatever it may be, however you express yourself, it is totally okay.
It's important to let yourself feel and to let yourself be how you are in the moment, you know?
Because oftentimes, if you don't do that, you're never going to overcome it. You have to kind of really, what's that phrase? Like, you have to hit it straight in the back, you know? And you have to just get it over with in order to overcome it. And the second point I had about that is that I love how you are able to come to the terms with the fact that other people may not like the way you are. And I think it's so important to understand that you are your biggest advocate.
Exactly.
No one else is going to advocate for yourself better than you. And it is so important to understand that and to realize that, because if you're genuinely passionate about something, no one's going to do that better than you. And something that one of my mentors told me is that you're your biggest brand ambassador.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I love it too. Like, no one is going to pitch yourself better than you. No one is going to know yourself better than you. You know yourself best, and you can't let what other people say or what other people perceive you as or what other people understand you as cloud your way of perceiving yourself and pitching yourself. So
I think especially as women in this society, where I think a lot of girls, young women, older women, we're all silenced a lot, and it's really hard to speak up and almost stigmatized in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why it is so important to learn to be your biggest advocate, like you said, because nobody is going to speak up for you better than yourself, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And in a society where so many of us are silenced and told to sit quietly or to not speak up, it is so important to let yourself feel, acknowledge how you feel, and then do something about it.
Definitely. And it takes a lot of courage. It definitely does.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot of bravery, like, guys. It's so hard to produce podcast content and, like, put it out into the world. It's so hard to express our vulnerabilities and our opinions without the fear of judgment. So definitely, like, just take into consideration, like, we are also humans.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own feelings and their own sets of emotions and all of that. So it's just so important to be that positive light in the world and in times where sometimes it's really dark.
Absolutely.
And it's so hard to have the courage to be that light, to be the change that people need. But I think it's so good that you're doing this and having
Thank
that
you.
platform for everyone. So
one of the reasons why I just love this podcast and your podcast and really all like youth podcasts so much is because it's really expressing like
definitely.
this vulnerability, and it's explaining how youth feel in this world, and being vulnerable is so scary sometimes, especially on online platforms. And I just think it's so important for our society and for the kids in our generation.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the reasons why I love it so much.
I just want to say, I think my sensitivity, my vulnerability, the way I care so deeply is one of my biggest strengths.
Absolutely.
Not my biggest weakness. I used to, again, like you, I used to be so scared of coming off as sensitive and coming off as overly emotional. But now, like, I use that as one of my greatest superpowers. Like, I love the fact that I am able to say whatever I feel in the moment. As long as it's not slandering anyone, as long as I don't have any malice intent and I'm just expressing the way I feel, like, that is totally okay. And I think it's definitely needed. Like, we need a good balance of people who are both observers and who are also being the ones who are the advocates, you know?
Absolutely. So, at the end of the day, identity isn't something you have to finish figuring out. It's something that you're allowed to keep discovering, and something that's going to keep evolving with our changing society and with our changing bodies and minds. And you can do it in your own time.
Yeah.
And identity becomes powerful the moment we allow ourselves and others the freedom to exist without apology. Because I think when we allow each other to express our opinions and to be truly who we are, that is when we become so powerful in a good way, because then we are really expressing ourselves and being these true, authentic people. And authenticity is one of the things that our world lacks the most. And I think one of the things that our world needs the most of, because authenticity is really what makes us human.
Yeah. I like that point about authenticity that you brought up. I actually talked about this on an interview that I was recently featured on for Rock the Boat, a podcast that kind of wants to bridge the gap between Gen Z and previous generations.
Yeah.
And I talked about how I think in a world of digital media in our society, we lack authenticity. And it's so important to keep sharing those stories, to keep sharing your experiences, to keep sharing who you are, because there is always going to be someone in the world that needs to hear it. And it is so much more important to just put it out for that one person than to let other people cloud or hinder you from putting it out. So
ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really about who you are and who you want to be. It's not about anybody else. It's about yourself.
Definitely.
So that's it for episode 2 of We the People. I'm Sarah Shaffer-Harris, and let's keep talking about what matters.
Thank you.